So hello everybody and welcome back to the Full of Yourself podcast. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that these are going to be consistent because, as you know from experience, they are not. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, my background has changed and will be changing again sometime soon. So that's a bit of an indication of life at the minute, but I wanted to hop on to share a recent experience that I've had. And I didn't want to make the podcast about me. I'm been very conscious as to not doing that. And I wanted to come on, I want the podcast to be something that's educational, something that is me pouring what I believe to be valuable out into the world to benefit others. I don't want this to be a platform of me offloading my life. However, when this experience happened to me recently, all I could think was more people need to know about this. More people need to know that this is a thing and more people need to experience this. So there's not really any way for me to explain this without me explaining my own personal experience of this. So this is a bit of a story time. But before I get into the story time, I would like to talk about the different layers of knowing. So when you first learn something, you think you know it. So you may read it and understand it. This is layer one. This is when it seeps into your thinking brain. And this is when, if you think you know something, you think. So it's in the mind, it's in the brain, it's in this level. You can comprehend it. The second layer of knowing is lived experience. So when you fully understand something, so when somebody explains something to you and you're like, I know what that is because I've felt this before, I've experienced this before, I've had this tactile experience of what you're talking about, so therefore I understand. So for example, someone's telling you a story, you can relate, so you can empathize, you can feel that story more, you can understand it more. This is level 2. Level 3 is embodying. So feeling this knowledge, feeling this experience, feeling this story, feeling this fact within your body. This could be something that comes up through the body, like an inner wisdom that comes to you and moves through you. Or it could just be something that you have read, experienced, but then not fully grasped until it absorbs into the body. And now this new growth that you have had from learning to the 3rd level means that you can embody this change in your life in day to day. So I just wanted to start with that because the things that I'm talking about in this episode are not things that I've never spoken about before. They're not things that I haven't read about many times, that I haven't heard stories of, I've listened to podcasts of, I've thought I understood, I thought I knew what that was, I thought I was living my life in alignment with these beliefs until I had this experience that I think brought me fully onto level 2. I'm not on level 3 yet, which was one of the reasons I was hesitant to start this podcast episode, because I thought, do I do this now or do I wait until I'm in the level of embodiment and then I can kind of maybe speak about it more? But I can come back to you maybe when that happens and talk about it more. But this has been my experience of what I can only describe as what I think to be a 3rd eye opening or an awakening. And when things like spirituality become mainstream, you hear these phrases like unlocking the 3rd eye or awakening consciousness and things like that. And you don't really know what that means. And then you have an experience that you cannot really put into words. And you think, oh, maybe that relates to that thing that they keep talking about, because it kind of sounds like what that is, but it's very hard to put these experiences into words. So it's like maybe that's what they're referencing when they label it as this. So I am adopting this experience under the label of a 3rd eye opening, because that's the only way that I can think to put it into words from the labels that I know. So I can only try to explain something in a way that I know to explain it, which is based on information that I currently have. So I believe this has been a 3rd eye opening. And this experience happened because I have meditated on and off for maybe 5 to 6 years. But I've never really got into a repetitive, habitual daily practice until recently. And when I went and did my yoga teacher training, we did it every single day for an hour, and we would do focused meditation where we would focus really in depth on one thing, so you can shut everything else off apart from that one thing, and it allows you to refocus the mind. This is technically mindfulness because you're filling your mind with one thing. Your mind is not empty, your mind is full, but it stops your mind from being full of a million different things and allows you to really recenter your energy onto one thing. This is not what I've been doing. So when I was practicing that, I did find some shifts within, some shifts in my mindset, some shifts within the things that I was able to do whilst we were doing our meditative practice. But I have been listening to music and connecting to my breath. So I have been using my breath, using my prana, using my energy to shift through different parts of my body, depending on what I felt called to. Sometimes I've breathe into the heart chakra, sometimes into my womb, sometimes just up and down. Sometimes I just do yogi breath when you fill the stomach and you fill the lungs, you fill yourself with as much energy as you can and you gently push it out. And then I relax and come into my natural breath. So I've been listening to these audios, these music. Sometimes I listen to Joe Dispenza, not a lot of the time. I much prefer the music. And recently I had this shift just from showing up every single day and doing this. So I'll do this between 20 minutes to half an hour. I used to do it for 10, and then I realized I actually really enjoyed it. I think once you get past the discomfort of sitting in one position for a long period of time, it actually becomes really enjoyable. And I found myself being able to connect to a frequency of peace. So as my mind kind of disconnected, at first I will feel this disconnection of the mind. I'll feel like my energy goes backwards into my body, I guess, behind my mind. And this is what I understand to be becoming the conscious observer, because I step into the role of the conscious observer, which is behind the thoughts. This is something that I've been able to do for a couple of months now, and this is something that's really made an impact on my life positively for the rest of the day. So I step into that, and once I feel that shift backwards, I start to breathe into the breath. I feel back into the breath, and as I'm connecting to that breath, I feel this surge of peace and this surge of just heightened energy and this sense of joy that comes from nowhere, and it's really nice. And hence why I end up doing it for half an hour, because it's a wonderful experience. I just connect to this feeling of peace. But one of my goals when it came to meditation, one of my intentions when it came to meditation was I really wanted to, first of all, step into the role of the conscious observer, which I feel like I have been doing. The second of all was to understand and fully embody the lessons that I had thought I'd learned about the universe and the fact that we're all connected, and the fact that there's just this, we are part of the universe, we are universal energy experiencing itself, we are connected to everything. I have not done much plant medicine. I've done Kambo a few times, obviously, as you know if you listen to my podcast. I tried mushrooms one time, but it's on ghillie tea and doesn't count. So I know that people who have had these psychedelic experiences, they have seen this, they have felt this, but I've never felt this. And I wanted to feel this through my meditation. So this was my intention. And I sat and I had my palms open and I was connecting to peace, and I really wanted to feel this abundance of the universe. And all of a sudden I started to feel this. I started to feel this surge of energy, like I could feel like it like tingling around me. And I was like, oh, I feel like this might be it. And after doing that, I carried on with my day, and I just started to feel this shift within me and this unlocking of something underneath. So I meditated the next day and I did exactly the same thing, and I could feel the universe. I could feel the energy. I could feel the fact that we're all connected. I could feel the abundance. I could feel the state of joy that we're meant to be in all the time. So this state that is locked underneath our ego, underneath our fears, underneath our stresses, underneath all of the things that we put on top of our feelings of abundance. I was able to connect to that, and I could feel that, and I could feel this profound connection to everything and all that is and everybody else. And I fully understood this feeling of unconditional love and of the connection of the universe, of all of us, and the bigger picture of what it means to be a being of universal energy having a human experience. Mainly the fact of how connected we all are, and how the bigger picture is about everyone and the healing of all. And yes, having this feeling that I've spoken about this before, I've spoken about the connection of love and higher frequencies and joy and how we're all connected, but fully feeling that throughout your body and unlocking your mind to really understanding even just the infinite possibilities of the world. Like, I could suddenly realize how much of a creator we are, and how much abundance there is, and how infinite everything is, and all these fears that I have in my life and restrictions I put on myself, they all seem just to, I was like, oh, I get it now. I get why they're not meant to be a thing. And as much as this was wonderful, as much as this was what I asked for, it was like this overwhelming feeling of joy and unconditional love and just gratitude. But then there's also this counterpart of this overwhelming feeling of sadness because of the way that the world is. You know, I'm sat looking at the world and thinking about the abundance of life and nature and everything, and particularly at the time I was working on a mine site, so I'm surrounded by brick and just lots of really tired, overworked people who are living in their limiting beliefs, who are, like, you know, getting caught up in this illusion, in this rat race that we've created for ourselves. And I've always, you know, talked about this, but to fully feel that and then be sat in the opposite of that was quite overwhelming. And I spoke to my friend and I was like, I begged for this. Like, I wanted this. I wanted to feel this feeling. And now that I can see it and now that I can feel it, I'm like, put it back. I don't want it. How do I live now? Like, because our world is so completely opposite to the feeling that you get when you connect to that. And I've researched Kundalini before, and a lot of people say, you know, don't do Kundalini unless you're ready for what's going to happen when you awaken, because it's really hard. And this was obviously just a little taster of that, but it was hard. I was like, I don't know, how do I carry on being human now? How do I live my life now that I've unlocked this? And everything in my life feels like weird. And it was like, yeah, this weird feeling of sadness. And then I FaceTimed my mum, because whenever I'm having a meltdown, even if it's something to do with, you know, things that make me sound crazy to most people, she still picks up. And even looking at her on a screen, so not even face to face, I could just see this like energy coming from her, and I could just feel this overwhelming feeling of gratitude and love. Just looking at her, like, she didn't have to do anything, she didn't have to say anything, she was just talking normal, and I was just like, I am so unbelievably grateful just for all of connections I have in my life. So yeah, and when I had this moment, I just thought, everybody needs to have this. This is how we should be all the time. We should be able to feel this abundant feeling of joy. We should be able to physically embody the feeling of all being connected. And we should be able to understand the infinites of the universe and the infinites of the possibilities in life. Like, we have so many restrictions that we put on ourselves because of these imaginary rules and these imaginary limitations that we create in the mind that have been pulled from our ego, from external influences. And once you're able to kind of switch that off and realize that none of that is real, there's so much out there and like beyond that we can just connect to and just move through and just choose. But we block ourselves because of these fears and because of these narratives that we've been conditioned to believe, and we allow ourselves to believe that, like, would the world be like this if we all unlocked this? And this isn't something that, it's not, as I said, a lot of people do plant medicine, or they have to go to silent retreats, or they do hours of silent meditation every day. I just listen to music for 20 minutes a day and it unlocked for me. So I think if you're ready to hear it, if you're ready to feel it, or if you think you are anyway, I wasn't quite ready, it will come. It will come. If you continue to align yourself with that frequency and align yourself with that path, it will come. And another thing that made me realize that this shift has happened within me is this is maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I obviously decided I didn't want to delve into it and I wanted to reject it, and I stepped back from it for a few days. But now it's been a little bit later and I'm having some grounding time away from working away, things like that. It's like, I know there's been a shift within me. One, because I just feel a lot less limited. But secondly, because when it comes to my food choices and my choices of the things that I want to do with my day, I'm extremely conscious of those, and I feel very enriched by those. And especially with like food choices, things like this, like I only want to eat like lots of fruit and veg and lots of things that I feel are going to nourish my body. I don't want to go for taste. I don't want to go for, quick fixes. I don't have any cravings or urges. I just want to eat wholesome things that I know, anything that nourishes my body, anything that nourishes my soul. That's what I want to do. That's what I feel aligned with. And when I did my first episode about Kambo in season 1 with Hannah, we spoke about the first time we did it and that we just wanted to eat fruit and veg after we had this unlocking through plant medicine. And we were saying how if you want to lose weight, just go and do Kambo because it stops you from wanting to eat any garbage for like weeks. And I'm feeling that naturally without the assistance of Kambo, things like that. So I know there's been an internal shift within me, and I know that my energy is changing, and I know that when I continue to meditate, I can still feel this energy of the universe. I'm not quite feeling it like I was on that particular instance, but I think that's because I rejected it, and I was like, I'm not ready, go away. And a few days afterwards, I did drink some wine, and any alcohol blocks the hypothalamus, our connection to the higher knowledge, which I'm not saying that you have to go teetotal. I'm not saying that I'm going to go teetotal, because I still believe that there is a beauty to balancing the human experience and connecting to people through all different ways. I'm not somebody who I think just because I've had an unlocking experience means that I have to go like full yogi and cut off all my friends and not socialize and, live in the middle of the mountains and talk to nobody. Like, I'm still on Instagram, I'm still doing my podcast, like still gonna have probably a glass of wine with my friends every now and then, but I know the consequences of this. I know if I drink a glass of wine or two that I'm not gonna be as connected as I could be, and it might take me a couple of weeks to get back to that connection. But also sometimes when these things happen that are overwhelming, it's quite good to take a few weeks just to step back from that, because it can become a lot of people get quite addicted to these spiritual moments, these spiritual enlightenments, these spiritual awakenings. And also I find it very weird calling it spiritual, because technically the word spirituality implies that we believe that we are spirits. I don't believe that we're spirits. I believe that we are universal energy. I believe we are the universe. And I think this is one of the things with manifesting. So with everything that I have taught, everything that I have learned, everything that I post about when it comes to my social media, and I've done fitness coaching, I've done self-love coaching, I've talked about manifestation, I've talked about all these different things. If there's any one thing that I could teach people, it's this unlocking, it's this awakening, it's this connection to joy. And all I can think to call it is an awakening. And it's funny because a few weeks leading up to that, I was voice noting a friend about rebranding my business and getting back into coaching, which I am doing. And I said, all I can think of is awakening, like the awakening. And then I had one. So I was like, maybe that was for me. But I don't like to call it the awakening, because I think this is only one part of the full picture. But this is the most integral part. If there's anything that I could teach, if there's one thing that I could teach, it would be this: how to do this, how to feel this, how to understand this, how to know this. And hopefully I will be able to fully embody this very soon, from repetitive practice and getting back into this alignment. Because once you embody this, once you understand this, once you're able to connect with anything and everything, as I said, life becomes infinite. And this connects to manifestation, because everybody wants to manifest. Everybody wants their dream life. Everybody wants to be able to call in all the things that they want and to know that they're in control of that, because the feeling of lack of control, which is what gives us fear and which makes us feel restricted and which triggers all of our insecurities, things like this. Everyone wants to feel like they can have their dream life. And when we listen to manifesting kind of teachings, a lot of it's about asking the universe to call it into you. But when you realize that you are the universe, you are connected to the universe, you are part of this source, you stop asking for something outside of yourself to save you. You stop asking something outside of yourself to change your life, and you know that you're able to do that for yourself because you're the thing that you're asking for. Yes, you have to understand how to connect to the bigger picture for the energy. You can't plug a light in and expect it to turn on without any power. You have to be able to connect to the wisdom within, to connect to the alignment within, which is connected to things beyond us. But I think we give so much energy and we give so much narrative to something outside of us, something that we think is more than us. But we are that. We're just experiencing that through this human body, through this human experience, through this human consciousness, through this mind. But as much as that may sound like it's limiting, it's not, because if you didn't have your human, I spoke about this in the other podcast, but we'll go into it again. If you didn't have this human experience, you didn't have this, you wouldn't be able to feel things or see things or experience things. You would just be energy, and energy cannot have this experience that we're having, hence why we are having the experience that we're having. That the point of having this experience is to have this experience. One of the other huge lessons or shifts that I had during this experience was the connection to everyone and everything. The bigger picture is not about you. The bigger picture is about everyone. And I do believe this is one of the reasons that this awakening, this shift in consciousness, is so important to talk about, because I do question whether we would live the way that we do if we all had this, if we all could connect to this infinite within. Because there's so much separation in the world, there's so much hate, there's so much pain, there's so much suffering, there's so much selfishness, there's so much greed, there's so much need to take, which comes from a lack of knowing what we have already, what we have within us. The only reason we feel like we need to take is because we think we don't have, or we think if I don't have, then if you have, then I don't have. And this is all derived from the ego. This is all derived from fear of lack, scarcity. But if we were all able to connect to this feeling of abundance, this feeling of connection to everybody, we would realize that the bigger picture is not about us. The bigger picture is about everyone, about everything. We are connected. So by healing yourself, you help to heal others, because you're connecting to the frequency of the collective. You're connecting to this higher picture. You're becoming part of it. And even if you're somebody you're listening to this and you want to have this connection within yourself, but you're not somebody who wants to, come on a podcast and talk about it, that doesn't still mean that you're not adding to the bigger picture. It's like a domino effect. The more people who start to have this experience, the more people who start to move through limitations and embrace this higher frequency, the more your frequency will impact onto other people. Like I know, even the last couple of months, really diving into my meditation that has changed the way that I show up in my day-to-day life, and other people have started to notice this as well. So your energy impacts those around you, impacts your life. It's a domino effect. So the more that we are able to understand this and able to break through our own limitations, the more that we're able to make a positive impact on the world. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why there was such an overwhelming feeling of sadness too, because it's like, it is sad thinking about how disconnected we all are, and how disconnected we are to our bodies, and how disconnected we are to the nature and the land and all of the things that are the things that actually bring us abundance. You know, how beautiful is this planet, how abundant is this planet, how wonderful is it, and how often do we disregard it or mistreat it or just don't appreciate it. So I am going to wrap this episode up here. As I mentioned, I'm getting back into my coaching and into my programming and into my teaching, which is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but something that I haven't felt ready to do. One of the reasons I stepped back from the podcast as well. So I will put a link in the bio of my guide, my deeper dive into confidence guide. So even though this is talking about confidence, because I do feel like confidence is one of the things that people come to me with the most when it comes to coaching. Confidence is an energy, is an emotion that a lot of people want to step into. In this guide, I dive deep into self-love, self-empowerment, self-worth, well-being, manifestation, mindset, all kinds of different things. So even though this is labeled as confidence, this is something that can impact several different areas of life. So I've gone through a lot of my daily habits, a lot of my mindset shifts that have really helped me to transform my life in the last couple of years, and I'm hoping to pass this on to other people. It's a downloadable guide. It's only $47, so please go and download that. Let me know how you get on. Also, I have my Instagram on there. I'm sharing a lot more videos, a lot more talks about these kinds of things on there. So if this was interesting, if you enjoyed it, and if you want to know more, please connect with me below, reach out, and I will see you in the next one.